Hi, everyone, and welcome to another stream. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all the positive feedback I've got with the recent videos, specifically around Joshua Bull, the champion of FPL 19 and 20, and Mr. Sujan Shah, one of the co hosts of Planet FPL. So I'd like to welcome another stellar guest, and who I've got over here is Mr. FPL Nima. Before he says anything, he's the co editor of
All
About
about
FPL.
FPL.
And also, he's part of Net That Hall, where I had the pleasure of being the first Twitter follower after chasing them to create a Twitter account. So, Mr. Nima, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's a pleasure to join you. I love the last two interviews you did, as you know.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I feel quite humbled to join after such esteemed guests, but hopefully I can follow up on what they said.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, you have to look at the context as well. We're talking about Arsenal, so how much quality are we going to get?
Yeah, it must be nice for you to talk to a fellow Gooner. I know we had a great show, didn't we, at the end of last season when we reviewed the season with Nim.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And at that point, really, it was where the kind of seeds were in place for myself and Nima to do something regarding Arsenal because I feel you're very educated around the area, but also you're not like an Arsenal basher, if you know what I mean. Like I feel like you want what's best. So when we had conversations, I thought it was really good, intuitive stuff, not just oh Arsenal are dead and all.
Like we know we're in
The childish
trouble,
stuff.
right? Like it
Yeah,
doesn't take a genius to tell that. But I listened to a Twitter Spaces the other day, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like we're meant to be fellow Arsenal fans. We're meant to be in it together, and people were proper fighting each other to the
I
extent that
know.
someone was like, "Fuck this, I'm out," and then they like cut out the space, and it was very dramatic. And I was like, "Wow, like you guys really are at each other's throats. We're meant to be comrades." Like,
Right. And but no, I will get to that absolutely.
yeah, we'll
Before
get
we
there.
all, yeah, we'll get there. Before we start all of that, tell me, who is Nima?
Yeah, so I guess the way I look at myself is I guess I'm the children of immigrants. So I came to the UK when I was 5 years old. I was actually born in Tehran in Iran. So I always kind of have that affinity with my Persian heritage. I went to all my kind of education in the UK, so primary school, high school, university. I'd like to say that I'm someone who doesn't take himself too seriously. I love meeting people, socializing, and just learning about the world. So I always felt like you could learn something new from anyone you speak to because surely they've had a different life experience to you, right? So that's kind of me. Like I'm an easygoing guy. I like to meet people. I want to understand their journey, how they got to where they got to, and I just love to relate with people. So this is a pleasure to be able to obviously have a second chance to chat to you again, and I'm sure we'll get to know each other even better now.
Yeah, well, spoiler, we're going to meet at the fest, so I don't know what kind of mental state we'll be at the end of the night, but in the beginning, I'm sure there'll be conversation. Before I go on, I of course had a look at all about FPL, and we've spoken off record about some stuff. As co-editor, what really were you one of the ones who brought all about FPL into inception? Like, were you one of the key people to release that idea?
So yes, I can tell you a little bit about that. So
Please.
I actually started out as a kind of writer for Fantasy Football Hub last preseason. I wrote my first article. It was about Arsenal assets. Interestingly enough, it aged well when everyone thought Aubameyang was a must-have because he was a midfielder for the whole year. It aged really well. But aside from that one-off piece, I then started around game week, I think 5 or 6 in October, writing about transfer trends for Hub, and I was doing that every week. And around Christmas time, when we were getting close to the game week 16, final chance to use our first wild card, I'd been in talks with Surya, who runs all about FPL, for a few months, and we thought it would be nice to write like a team reveal for my wild card. And I wrote it, and like he messaged me the next day, he said, "Nima, we got more than 10,000 like readers on that one post in less than 24 hours. It's a
Fantastic.
site record." And I was like, "Whoa,
Fantastic.
okay." So we kind of got close. We did a few video calls, and Surya, his friend Srini, and Anudin, there's three of them. They actually kind of created the website 2 years ago, and it was
Mm,
meant to always be like a free destination with top quality content for FPL that was never going to be paywalled. So obviously, I'm a hub writer. There are members only articles and tools on there which
yep.
I use, as well as Scout and Fix. I use tools from all of them. I'm a paying member of all three, so I'm an addict.
Brilliant.
But that aside, this idea that these three kids in Chennai, they had set up this website with a global reach that had about 20 to 30% of the traffic of these big behemoth companies. And they were doing
Wow.
it all for free. outside of their day jobs, it really resonated with me. And I was like a little bit older than them, and we kind of had a lot of chats, and I've done a lot of entrepreneurial things. So I really wanted to get involved, and we kind of said it makes sense. Like, I want to help them grow the business. They want to kind of learn from me. And I started writing and editing other people's content, which was a great experience for me. So I went from just being a writer on Fantasy Football Hub to actually editing pieces, publishing pieces, learning about the technical SEO. And we kind of saw the site traffic go up and up and up. And we're really excited for the next year ahead. But for me, it was just that idea that it was free content for everyone, and it was never about monetization. And that really appealed to me.
Beautiful. I mean, that's a great segue in really to Net That Haul, how that came apart. Because I knew all of you separately on Twitter, but for you to come together as well, have you all known each other for a while, or?
So that's an interesting one as well, because I think Mariner, so FPL Mariner, he obviously had his captaincy metric last year. Had about an 80% hit rate, which is insane. I wish I'd copied him. I got such terrible captaincy points. But he started around game week 19, I think, the Net That Haul show with FPL Lens, so Gabriel in America. And the two of them were at it and they had guests on. Around game week 25, 26, at that time, Gabriel was also writing for allaboutfpl.com. And he said to me, like, I'll talk to Mariner, my co-host, you want to come on as a guest? So again, I came on as a guest. I really loved it. And the week after, Hibbo, so Sean, he was a fellow hub writer at the time. He got invited on as a guest too. And we were both just kind of guests. We were never really meant to stay, but the four of us felt such a like chemistry between us and a bond that we kind of decided we're going to go at it together. And towards the end of last season, game week 30 to 38 onwards, all four of us were co-hosts, but we couldn't always be there. So it was kind of like mainly it was still Mariner and Lens running the Net That Haul channel. And then fast forward to kind of this preseason, we're about 9 episodes into the preseason. 1 episode tomorrow, 1 on Thursday. So that'll be 11 preseason episodes we've done. We've gone up from like 400 subscribers to just over 1,000 now. So we're very happy about that.
Fantastic.
Our views are flying. Our podcast downloads are like 10 times what they were. So we were getting like 30 downloads an episode. Now we're getting 300. Our views on YouTube were like 300. Now we're getting 2,000. So it's just so much changed. And we rebranded the site. Again, for us, it was about that concept of it was free. So where other people were maybe putting team reveals behind paywalls or algorithms or Patreons, we were like, when we get to 1,000 subs, we're going to donate to a heart charity. And we've done that now. And we said when we get to 2,000 subs, we're going to donate. We said that we'll do a thing where if people donate to charity, we'll give them a team review for like 20 minutes for free. We don't want the money. We want to we basically want to do this for free. And at times even put our hand in our own pocket and pay the charities because our haulers have supported us. So I think that resonated with our crowd and probably helped with the exponential growth in the preseason. And now we're just super excited to see what we can show people next year, where we're going to do 2 shows a week. We split them into different time zones, and it's going to be very fun, I think. And we've got lots of guests we want to bring on. So we've obviously had Tom Stevenson, so Hall of Fame number 2. We've had FPL Salah. He doesn't even need an introduction. Abdul, he's a legend of the game.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so those two are fantastic. But we have some insane guests lined up, and I'm really excited to show people what we're working on this year. We have really ambitious targets. And again, I think it goes back to the same message that like we're not in this for ourselves. Like we're not looking to gain anything out of this. Like we're doing it for the pure love and passion of the community and what it gave us during lockdown when we had nothing else to do. And this community gave us sanity, and now we want to give back to people. So it's really fun. And I feel like that's kind of my whole FPL journey. It's been while we were locked up, starting to write, going on shows, becoming a guest, becoming permanent. And now this year, I just really want to double down on that and really give out great quality free content to people.
Well, so I found Net That Haul maybe just 3 weeks ago, and I almost fell on it. And let me finish, please, first. I kind of fell on it because, I follow you, you follow me. I'll see what you have. And if I like it, I'll like it. And sometimes we'll DM and stuff, which is great. And then I kind of saw, follow Net That Haul. And then, or check out this episode. It was from your account. I was like, let me check this out. I checked it out. And for me, I compartmentalize FPL as a hobby that I have a lot of interest on, but it is a hobby. Of course, when you look at the value of other things, like I know yourself, you're married, I'm married, I've got kids as well, it's in the category of having fun. And when I see the 4 of you, even when they're all those statistics, it's still based on enjoyment, and 4 of you having a fantastic chemistry together as well. and that just oozes out when you're talking, like when you get in the Pikachu suit, and I'm like all over the place. I found it so funny, but then you gather all those statistics at the same time. So for me personally, you have a fantastic balance of the knowledge, the stats, the value in regards to FPL aspect, coupled with entertainment. So
That's really
just keep it
kind.
up, man. Just
No,
keep it
that's
up.
really kind. I think we do pride ourselves on the four of us being very different to each other. So I don't
Yes.
think if we played FPL, we would ever have met, right? And the fact that now we can consider each other quite close friends and we talk daily in our group chat, like it's insane. Like for me, what I would say, so I always found it fascinating because Hibbo, so he's very hardworking. He's an amazing writer. He's probably one of the best writers out of all four of us. Marin is like the computer, the machine. He is the algorithm. Like he's our Da, as we call him, our dad. He steers us in the right direction on that ship. Because the rest of us are kind of troublemakers and miscreants. Gabriel, he's actually a US certified coach. He's an actual like coach who has tactical understanding of the game, and what he knows about football I could only dream to know of. And I guess me, I'm like the comedy sidekick who, as you say, dresses up in onesies, has a few drinks, has a good time. But I have some consistently mediocre FPL ranks. I'd say over the last 5-6 years, I've always been in the top 1%. So I'm consistent in that, but I don't have those amazing records of the people I've interviewed that I mentioned earlier, obviously. But I love the game, and as you say, I think we have fun when we're on air, and
Yes.
it can be quite stats heavy. And I recommend people watch it in segments because some of the episodes are like 2 hours, so watch them in like timestamps. Watch like 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Yeah, you don't want to watch it in one go, that's for sure. If you come live, that's a different kettle of fish. So what I will say is something that's been new to me is the idea of live streaming and being able to actually talk to the kind of the followers live and interact with them and respond to their questions. That element really appeals to me, and we want to be way more interactive this season. So watch this space.
Fantastic. All right, now we could talk about FPL all day, but that's not why I brought you on.
No, it's not. But I guess that's who I am. Yeah,
That's
it's like 30% of me is FPL. As much as my wife might want to pull me away from that world.
Yeah, and the rest of it is Arsenal. So tell us about your history of supporting them.
Yeah, so I guess for me, what I will say is when I was about 8 years old, so 1998, I really fell in love with football in the World Cup. It was when Michael Owen scored against Argentina. I was a really big fan of Michael Owen. Iran were in the World Cup at the time. I remember being in High Street, Kensington in London after we beat the USA 2-1. And it was chaos. There was the Iranian national anthem being played on gridlock traffic through every car horn in the whole of Kensington. I remember a guy in a US jersey walked past and he got booed by thousands of Iranians. That moment, I just fell in love with football. And it was actually international football that got me into the sport. From there, so when I was about 9 or 10, so this for what? I guess 1999? Yeah, 1999 to 2000. I really started to watch Arsenal. In case the jersey doesn't tell you, not only am I kind of trying to cling on to previous better times, but that era of kind of Ian Wright and what he did. So kind of this is the 91-93 away shirt. That was a big one for me. So I really fell in love with him. I fell in love with Bergkamp, Thierry, Vieira, like all those players. It was that kind of invincible generation came soon after, as you know. Things got a bit tougher after that, after the Cronkies bought the club, and I'm sure we'll come to that. But for me, it was really that kind of, I was playing Pro Evo back then. I was playing FIFA 2004, etc. Thierry was on the front cover. Like, I was starstruck. He was in the Vava Voom adverts. But if we really go down to the crux of it, I'll tell you why I really support Arsenal beyond the players and the flair and the style and philosophy. It was actually because of one man. It was Arsene Wenger, and it goes back to what I said at the very beginning about who I am. So I'm the son of immigrants, and for me, I came to this country, and when I was in primary school, I was told by a lot of people, go home. Like, they called me a Paki and stuff, and I'm not even Pakistani. And there was a lot of kind of stuff that I faced as a child that made me feel like if you're not English, you can't make it in this country. And same thing happened to Wenger. He kind of arrived. They were like Arsene who, they were mocking him. They laughed at him when he talked about the unbeaten season. I remember I read his autobiography. He said one time he went on holiday, and when he came back, the coaches at the club said to him, "Oh, Arsene, you're back. What's going on?" The paper said you quit and did a runner to France. He's like, "What do you mean? I went on holiday. I'm back to take training. Like, I'm the coach of the fucking club. What the fuck is wrong with the media of this country? These tabloid trash of this nation." And I realized he was being targeted on a way worse scale than I was by the entire country's establishment of media for being foreign. So to see him kind of succeed, be the first foreign manager to win a Premier League, and to, despite all the abuse he got, he never kind of compromised his values. He was such a classy guy. I always look at him and I think, yeah, this is who I admire. This is someone who came to this country and proved to me that I can also make it in this nation without being English. And he kind of dealt with all the stuff that was thrown his way with utter class. So I think that's where it all comes down to for me. It was Wenger was like, and this is a really embarrassing part, but I genuinely thought Arsenal was called Arsenal because it was named after Arsene Wenger. That's how much I love the guy. Yeah, I thought I'd admit that here up front while I could. I'll get that in there. Let's timestamp that Arsene is called Arsenal Wenger.
I can't believe it. Yeah, for everyone who will hopefully eventually listen to this, Nima told me that offline, and I said I'll say it on the stream, and I was like, "No, you won't." And he's done it, so respect to him. That's brilliant. I must say, it's very rare for a fan to really reminisce with a club because of a coach or manager. Usually, it's a player, but I feel like Arsene Wenger really drove you to think that Arsenal is my club. Is it fair for me to say that?
I think so. As much as I love the players, it was just him. It was the way he carried himself. It was like he was a role model to me. Like he was someone who I genuinely looked at him and thought, this guy, he's not like the other people in the football world. Like they call him Le Prof for a reason. Like he's a philosopher. He has values. There's a reason he was given that kind of royal guard knight title from George Weah when he became president. So
Unbelievable.
this is a man who's not like most football coaches.
Wow. Fantastic. Fantastic, Nima. So I'll go to the next bit, which is not so fantastic, unfortunately. And that will be to our summary of last season. So
I see 5 green ticks. No, but you are right. It's back-to-back 8th place finish, not ideal. So my view is obviously it was like probably our worst season in like 25 years in the time I've been supporting the club anyway, and it was terrible. Like there's no denying that. One thing I will say though is, for all the talk of us kind of being relegation candidates early on in the season, and Tottenham when they were first earlier on in the year being talked of as kind of title challengers, I do find it odd that they only finished 1 point above us. And that, 4th place was 6 points above us. All in all, it was a bad year, but it was our worst year in a quarter of a century, and we were 6 points behind 4th. And let's not go into VAR and stuff, but I have a personal belief, and I'm not talking about there's a bias against Arsenal. I just think the referees in the Premier League are absolutely incompetent. So I don't think it's necessarily a bias against the Gooners as such, but just that they are incompetent. But there was many times that I saw stuff that, let's just say they were dodgy, like Chambers scoring a goal and it doesn't count because apparently he fouled people while getting taken out by 3 people. And there's a lot of incidents that happen to Arsenal. They don't seem to happen to other clubs. And I know we should still win those games despite of those, and we should have enough quality to win anyway. So I don't rue the position we are. We deserve to be 8th. We deserve no better. If we'd got to the Europa final, we would not have deserved it on merit. I think we needed a season outside of Europe altogether to rebuild the way that Liverpool and Spurs and Chelsea and other clubs have done when they have been outside of Europe and they can focus on the Prem. But one thing I do want to highlight is that after Christmas, when we finally had an attacking midfielder, a playmaker join the club, Smith Rowe was back from injury. We were actually second, I think, in the Premier League from Christmas Day onwards. And that's for a spell of 23 or 24 games out of 38. Now, I know seasons aren't just like kind of calendar years, and people laugh at Arsenal and say, yeah, you guys love to talk about like calendar years or random periods where you did well. But Fergie used to actually say himself, and if anyone wants to debate me, then go on then, let's question Fergie's intellect. So Fergie said to me, or to all of us, that last spell of a season is the hardest spell to get those consistent results, actually. And we kind of did that. So I'd like to think if we can start properly, we'll have a better season. We can focus on the Prem. I know we've not bought the players we needed to reinforce this window just yet, but the window isn't closed. We are after an attacking midfielder still, as much as people want to beat the manager for having a bad preseason. For me, preseason is just for minutes and trialing strategies and testing stuff. We all know Arsenal's in a bad situation. I don't see anyone talking about like Ben White and Lukonga looking good. And I see anyone talking about players like Saka and Smith Rowe improving under the coach. No one really talks about that. They just talk about the bad stuff. They like to talk about all the toxic elements of the club, which fair enough. Since we went under Kroenke ownership, what happened last year was almost inevitable, you could say.
Yeah.
They said they were going to be custodians of the club. They did nothing. I don't even think Stan himself has been in the country for years. He keeps
Mm.
sending his son Josh here and there. Um, they told us to be excited. We moved to the Emirates. Gazidis at the time, the CEO, said we were going to compete with the likes of Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. We've done anything but. He then did a runner the moment that his Kevlar and his Kevlar body armor of Arsene Wenger was gone. So
Yeah.
Wenger for a while, he took all the heat for all of them, for Kroenke, for Gazidis, for the entire incompetent board with zero football men on it. So Chips Keswick, what the fuck kind of name is that? Anyway, moving on from my insults, there is really a point here,
Language,
which
please.
yeah, exactly. No, so there is really a point here, which is A, we don't want to put this video behind the age restriction. Secondly, is that for years we were told stuff, and Wenger took all the heat and all the bullets, and Gazidis wanted to win that power struggle, and the moment he did a runner to Milan. So it's
Mm.
like for me, it was inevitable we were going to have the season we did, because if you look at the last 4 years, we've had different transfer teams in charge every year. We keep buying players with no plan. Like, we're not even building for the future. Like, we had Wenger and Gazidis, and I think it was Missentat. Then it became like Raul and Missentat and Gazidis. Then it became like Vinay and like Edu. Then it was like Edu and Arteta, but Arteta was only a head coach back then, so Gazidis had gone. Now Vinay and Raul and Edu were there, so it was three of them. Then they promoted him to a manager, and then that was like an interrupted season with no preseason, a COVID project restart.
Yeah.
And we just have loads of players on high salaries who are very mediocre and no one wants to buy. And we're in a
Yeah.
scenario where we couldn't register Socrates and Ozil last year. We had 9 centre backs. What kind of squad planning is that? No attacking mids. So yeah, like, that's my summary, is that it was always going to happen. We were going to implode at some point, and yet our implosion, our worst result in quarter of a century, was 6 points outside top 4 where we would have killed to be. And we only had an attacking mid for half a season, and we were pretty good that half. So I'm quite optimistic about the future, unlike many, I think, because the signs were there that if we reinforce, and there's still a few weeks left, if we reinforce, I think we can do much better. But yeah, it was the worst season in living memory. No doubt about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that segues really well to the next point, really, is because we're in a really unknown predicament of no European football. So, if you were to set some objectives and expectations for this season, what would it be that you think are realistic?
I think the sad thing is there's no longer a big six. It's a very clear big four or top four. Like, you can't really argue that City, United, Liverpool, and Chelsea aren't the 4 best teams in the country. Spurs are probably going to lose, Kane imminently, and we're pretty trash, as we know. So, like, the fact that even Arsenal and Spurs can be talked about as a big six is a big fucking joke. So that's out the window. There's only 4 good teams. I think realistically, if we can get back into the top 6 at least by the end of the season, it's an improvement on back-to-back 8th place. I'd love a top 4, don't get me wrong, but until I see a few signings, I'm not going to say that I'm confident of that. I do like our future planning is a bit better. So one thing that no one's talking about is there's been not many incomings and not many outgoings, bar the Willock sale just now. And I think Gundozi is like an obligation to buy, so we don't even get the money till next year. But what no one's giving credit to the team for is the contract renewals. So we've tied down quite a lot of young players, very talented young players, for the foreseeable future, at least 5-6 years. So, we've given contracts to like some Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka, Tierney. We're tying down our good players now. We brought in the
Finally.
right profile. Yeah, and I'm buying the right profile of players now. We're buying young upcoming talent of the likes of Ben White, Lokonga. Tavares is a good backup because Tierney can be injured quite often.
Agree.
We're starting to build a proper squad now, and I think that's something we've not had in the past. So I'm excited about our young players, and it's really sad to think that our youth last year as well were the only good thing about the club. And you would have expected some of these senior experienced players to do something, but they
Yeah.
did not pull their weight in any way.
So, what are your expectations this season?
I think I would love to see us finish 5th. Like that would be like, I think 5th or 6th is realistic. Depending on how the rest of this window goes, if we did sign a Madison or Odegaard, I'd stick my neck out and say like maybe we could sneak into 4th. Because at the end of the day, we were crap last year, and in 25 out of 38 games, we were second in the league behind Man City. So, like, it shows that like we can clearly do it. And even from like a defensive point of view, we've always been terrible. We used to leak goals for fun. Last year, we conceded the third least goals outside of City and Chelsea. We had the fourth lowest XG conceded. Um, obviously there was 17 losses. There's no pretending that didn't happen. So although we didn't concede many goals, maybe it's better to lose one game 3-0 than lose three of them 1-0. So, yeah, we lost a lot of games, don't get me wrong, but we tightened up defensively, something we never had. We were a defense that was called uncoachable, and we were able to prevent goals. So clearly we are coachable. So now we've got that defensive solidity. It's happened. We brought in Ben White. He's by far our best defender easily already. So we just need some more flair. We need someone to drive the ball forward, to create chances. We need Aubameyang to find his shooting boots. We need the youth to pull us up as they continue to improve and grow with age. The fact that we're not playing in Europe makes me think that Arteta's on kind of walking on cracked ice, because realistically, I think come the second international break, maybe the third, so anywhere between game week 8 to 12, if we're not doing well in the league, I'm pretty sure they're going to throw him out. And you could debate, is that a bad thing, because we did the same to Emery? Like, we could have got rid of him sooner. We got rid of him mid-season. It was too late to fix the season. So there is some nuanced debate there about, if we didn't believe Arteta was the guy, should we get rid sooner? But realistically, for me, this is his first full window where it wasn't like cut short because of Project Restart, and he's actually signed some of his men, and he's trying to get rid of some of the trash. So you've got to give him this season, I think. But he will get sacked, I imagine, by game week 10 if he's not doing well. Like, he's got nothing else to focus on, right? Like, he has to do well in the Premier League.
Yeah, and again, for everyone who will eventually watch this, the man knows the itinerary, because the next part was Arteta in or out. Now, let me set this question up for you, please. Made some really valid points. Now, for you to determine Arteta being in, but we don't reach where we want to reach, which is basically Europe, would you entertain if we're a threat to qualify for the Champions League, but we just miss out? Is that something that would possibly lean more towards you keeping Arteta in? So basically, the question is more around, it's going to be difficult for Arsenal to kind of jump up trees, if you know what I mean, and pull up trees, excuse me, in regards to, okay, we're going to be a threat to qualify for the Champions League. But if we finish sixth, but you see that there's a direction for us to move forward, would that entice you more to keep in Arteta?
I think it would. I think a lot of people's kind of feelings towards Arteta out is around the idea that they say he's not an experienced coach. This was his first full-time job. Obviously, he was only vice coach. They say that the only reason we gave him the job is because he was an assistant to Pep. That's not why. Like, back in 2012, when he was our captain, he was leading the team talks when we won our cup. First cup in 9 years, might I add. When he arrived, he took a pay cut from Everton, and after his first incredible year with us, all the team went to Wenger and were like, "This is insane. You need to give him a better salary." People say he was an average player, yet people laud and love Michael Carrick for some apparently stellar season he had for Man United in 2012-13. And I saw some United pundits talking about how great Carrick was that year, and they put up a graphic, and in every single stat about Carrick, Arteta was above him as a midfielder. Wow. So, yeah, and he gets shit on a lot, Arteta, even as a player, let alone a coach, but he was better than Carrick in Carrick's best year, and Carrick gets talked about as like some god by many in that year that he had, where he was worse than Arteta. My point is that he's the kind of player who always had a footballing brain, and from early on, it was clear to, I think, many people that he would become a coach. And what I tried to say about him is he was 37 when he took the job with us. He was like 6-7 years younger than any other coach in the Prem. We had the youngest squad in the Prem at the time. So we had the youngest coach, the youngest squad. So the reason I'm leaning towards Arteta in, if there's a clear path and development and we just miss out on Europe, as you say, is because for me, he was always going to have to learn on the job. But we took an experienced coach, and that didn't work out for us. So I don't understand how people are now saying we should have got someone else. Like, Everton got Ancelotti. How did that work out for them? He's gone. Yeah, visibly. Like, we wanted to get rid of Wenger because he was old. He was from the old guard. We needed new, fresh ideas from the ilk of coaches like kind of Klopp and Pep and stuff. But then people want to go to get like an Ancelotti over an Arteta. Like, look, we brought in Emery, and for all the hindsight there may be, at the time we hired Emery, he had more silverware than any coach in Europe since 2012. He was the most decorated manager in world football at the time. How did that work out for us? It didn't. So we went the other way. We thought, okay, we go for the inexperienced coach, but the one who Arsene Wenger, Pep Guardiola, and Pochettino all think highly of. The day Arteta retired as a footballer, he was offered a job in the Arsenal Academy by Wenger, the vice coach role by Pep, and also to go to Spurs by Poch. All three of these people wanted him. So I don't think we just hired him to be cheap. I think he understood our DNA. He knew what it meant to be an Arsenal fan. He talked about he only wanted players who want to fight for the badge, and he didn't want people who weren't going to give it their all. He threw out a lot of people who before we weren't ruthless enough to throw out, and yet everyone's against him because yes, we lost more games than we ever have. I get that, but you know, what were we going to do differently? Hire Ancelotti and just bring in like someone like Wenger who's rooted to their ideas and style and doesn't want to be pragmatic and just wants to do it their way because they're a bit older now and they're set in their way? Or did we want someone who's going to grow with the club, learn from his mistakes last year, I hope, fingers crossed, and adapt? Because yes, he was making mistakes on the job. There's no doubt about that. His team selection can be at fault many times. His in-game management and substitutions sometimes reek of like confusion. So those are the parts of his game that I find weak. But all the people who re-signed their contracts, all the people who came to play with him despite no European football, they clearly see something in that vision that he has. And all those coaches I mentioned wouldn't look up to him as the next kind of amazing coach of the future if there wasn't something there. And we're all sitting on our armchairs at home kind of thinking we're better coach than one of the most highly touted future coaches of this generation. I just find that odd, if I'm frank.
Who has actually won a cup as well. So, you know, he's got something there.
but Ole is like getting a new contract for getting to the final. You know, they love that he stabilized the club. That shows what happens when you don't listen to the fans. My friends were saying Ole out December 3rd, and when United went top of the league in December 17th, they were like, oh, no, Ole in. I think these days football is so kind of reactionary. With social media, 1 week it's like you're a 10 out of 10, 1 week you're a 0 out of 10. There's just no patience. There's just zero kind of long thinking. It's like, oh no, like because you want to back Arteta, you must not care about the club or you don't have ambitions for our club. Like, no, the reality is you're delusional if you think we can just pull up trees, as he's saying, be in the top four. We have no right to be there. We need to work our way there, and it could take some time. And anyone who thinks that we can just sack him and buy someone and be done with it, they're delusional because Cronkies aren't going to invest the way an Abramovich or the City owners would. Like, we're going to have to do it with the right players. And thank God we're not signing any more Williams and Cedrics, and we're actually buying the right profile, which is young, promising talent.
So, agree, of course. Did a bit of research before preparing for this with yourself, and it was actually the Assessing Arsenal stream that we did with Priya, we did with Bobby, we did with Glenn, you know. Fantastic conversation. I think we even spoke after.
Yeah, we stayed on the stream for a while. Yeah,
it was like 4 hours, and something that we all agreed is we want Arteta to succeed because it works for Arsenal. You know, I obviously gave a lot of points and stuff like that, and I won't delve into it now. And you've covered it very eloquently, but I want Arteta to go on and absolutely go against all my trepidations that I currently have against him. I want it to completely work because Arsenal is first to me. And I think great points that you've made is with Arsenal, when people say we're a banter club, it's because we're so poisonous. You know, we're so toxic. You know, we really are a laughing stock when you look at some of the channels that are on YouTube, which I do not want to mention because they don't deserve me mentioning them, because they make my club, they make me feel embarrassed to be an Arsenal fan. And I've been an Arsenal fan since 1989. You know, so yes, guys, I am older than I look. Anyway, but
I thought I was older here.
No, you're not. I'm considerably older than you. But back to the point is that you know, in that stream, which was extremely enjoyable, and I think I'll put a link to the stream actually when I release this. It was fantastic. Is that we all said we want it to work out. We agreed and disagreed on some parts, but the point was it was educated. Everyone in that stream was educated, which is why I was very keen to do something with yourself. And fortunately, it was reciprocal because I want an educational opinion. I don't want to, banter this and he's rubbish and all this and all. You know why? Give me a reason. Because I don't.
They're
like
he's not a coach. He's never trained. They almost want to be proven right. So I feel like a lot of people
that's the problem. Exactly.
Want him out just to say, "I told you so."
Yeah, but you're losing.
They'd rather we suffer as a
failing.
club. Yeah, exactly. Like imagine we sack him midway through a season. Does that make you think that we're going to be any closer to our goals if we sacked him? Like, we should have sacked him this summer if you really think we should have sacked him, because then we wouldn't
Or
have
in
disrupted a
October,
whole nother
or in
season. Yeah.
October when we had the 8 losses. Yeah, but
Yeah.
if that now that segue, it was all linking up. Now, if that happens again, Nima, where we lose 7 out of the first 11 games, surely we can't hang on once again.
Oh, no, we can't. So what I will say is something that that spell made me think is I was Arteta in for a long time. I wanted him to succeed. I'm not Arteta out, but I am no longer Arteta in. So that's kind of what that spell led to me. It was, I'm on neither side now. I'm just going to watch because I was in, and then what happened was appalling. So his reluctance to play the youth and stick with the likes of Willian in that spell where someone like Pepe could have developed,
Yeah.
I only wonder what could have happened if Pepe had been given that time earlier. Equally, you might say that Pepe only started firing at the end of the season because something changed. He got a fire in his belly that only came because of the discipline that happened to him. What I think I know is people probably are surprised that Arsenal were like second in the league table for 25 out of 38 games at the end of the season. That tells you how bad that spell of 10 games were. So from October to December, there was 10 matches. We got 1 win and 2 draws. We got 5 points out of 30 points. No matter how well you do after that, no wonder you go from being called relegation candidates to you still can't make it to the top 6 or the top 4 because, yeah, we missed out by 6 points. But just imagine some of those games in those 10-game spell. If we just got like a draw or a win, like we wouldn't even be having this debate. People would be like, wow, like in his first full season, he got us back into like top 4 or into Europe. But like, obviously, that's not what happened. And I blame his stubbornness with the lineup and sticking with Willian. It was telling that Willian wasn't in the lineup yesterday, despite training and not being close to a transfer. It was a tactical choice to not even include him in the preseason minutes. That tells you like how bad our transfer choices have been for many years.
Yeah. Well, absolutely brilliant. I'll go to the next point. I'll flip it a bit, and we'll go to Nima's bread and butter, I'd say, which is FPL. So if you were to kind of pick out, you don't have to give me all the stats, yeah, because you have a huge barrage of fantastic articles, which I have read and everything like that, and you know I respect you a lot in that space. If you were to kind of pick maybe 3 FPL assets for Arsenal, it doesn't have to be the whole season. Maybe attacking the first 5 fixtures. Who would you recommend? Stroke advocate.
Yes, that's a really good question. I think going back on that defensive point and how much we've improved, I definitely think like Ben White for 4.5 million, he was priced as a Brighton player, and to get like a Arsenal defender who is going to be nailed on and probably a bonus point magnet with the amount of blocks he makes, and he's pretty impressive in preseason so far. 4.5 million feels a steal. Like you can kind of buy him now, keep him on your bench for your tough fixtures if you don't want to play him. So for me, that's an easy asset. Like I would go there. If I didn't believe Tierney was as injury prone as he is, for the extra 0.5 million at 5 million, I would have gone for him for the attacking threat. But I'm going to pick Ben White over Tierney just for that injury reason. My second player, who I'm touting to have a massive year, is Pepe. So he's only 7.5 million. I have really high hopes for him. I really think that he's going to have his breakout year, and he was fantastic last season. I think he was our top scorer ahead of people like Oba. So he's really, I think this is his time. I really hope he gets consistent run of games. When you look at how many minutes he had in the Prem and how many starts last season, the fact that he even broke 10 goals in that few starts and minutes shows what he can do on a good day. So I was actually in the Emirates when he scored 2 free kicks in a row in the Europa League, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I remember filming the first free kick, and I was like, oh, I caught the free kick going, and then my friend recorded the second one, but I was like, no one scores 2 free kicks in one game in 5 minutes, and he caught the second one going. I was like, okay, Nicholas, yes, Nicholas, you got some flair. Maybe your talent is a bit too raw for 70 million, but I don't think anyone would have argued if you cost less. If it was 40 million, people would have been screaming about how great he was last year. He's kind of got the price tag looming above his head, and it was an inflated window for wingers when we signed him, and he came off a season where only Messi and like Ronaldo had better numbers than him, so he was going to be inflated. So Pepe, he's second one. Third one is a tough one for me. It would be between Saka and Smith Rowe, I'd say. So for me, it would be Smith Rowe now in the first game week, where we know he's more nailed on because the attacking mid signing hasn't come yet. it would be Saka longer term because actually he was our player of the season, 5 goals, 5 assists at 19 years old. That Euros experience, I saw him mature. I saw the way he played, and I was so proud of him. And I've loved the support he's got. Seeing the Tottenham fans act classy yesterday and clap
Amazing.
him onto the pitch and put banners for him. I have so much respect for those guys for doing that because when has ever anyone in North London from Tottenham ever clapped an Arsenal player? That may be a first. So I honestly, I was very happy for the kid and I have high hopes for him. So for me, Saka long term all season, but because he's come back late from the Euros, I'd say Smith Rowe to start with. So to finalise, White, Pepe, Saka, with Tierney and Smith Rowe kind of in there and about the fringes.
In regards to Pepe, wasn't he the top scorer in the last 4 games in the whole of FPL or something like that? He was up there, like
He got
really
he had like 5, 6 goals in the last three,
mm,
four Prem games. He was on fire. Yeah, like he was genuinely on fire.
hitting the BPS as well.
Yeah, he's so good. He was playing right wing, and obviously Saka's played there for England, and we've seen Saka's quite good there. I think that gives Arteta a serious problem because in some worlds you would argue that maybe we need to stop this idea of Aubameyang playing left wing and Arteta just needs to grow a pair and bench one of Laka or Ober and just rotate them as centre forward. And he might need to just put Saka on the left wing to work with Tierney and then leave Pepe on the right. Because I don't think you can move Pepe like he's doing so well on the right. You just keep him there. My thing about Pepe, one of the reasons he suffered, apart from not getting consistent starts, is Bellerin hasn't been making overlapping runs.
Yeah,
And if there was a right back making overlapping runs, Pepe could cut in inside where he's most lethal and most dangerous and shoot on his left foot. So I feel like a lot of the problem with Pepe is he's kind of hugging the touchline with 3 defenders on him.
yeah.
Like what can you expect the guy to do? Like there's literally no fullback giving him any support on that wing. Even Callum Chambers and Cedric provided more support and overlapping runs than Bellerin, and Bellerin used to be one of my favourites, and I love what he does outside of the game. But it's really sad. Like since his injury, I don't think he's been the same player.
Yeah, you made some absolutely brilliant points. Thing is, when Saka first broke into the team, he was a left winger and he was hooking up pretty well with Tierney. So for me, he's a left winger first. So I agree with you there. With Pepe, absolutely. If you don't have players overlapping for you to create space, then it's very easy to mark you, and especially when you're on the opposite side of your foot, your strongest foot, i.e., if you're on the left and you're right footed, you need the overlap to create those decoys, isn't it? So because he's got a wand, free kicks, set pieces, corners, his finishing. I think Pepe is
He's probably one of
absolutely
our most
brilliant.
technically gifted players, like by far, like easily.
Agree.
Now, we don't have
But
many technically gifted players. Like it's probably him, Saka, and Smith Rowe.
couple of 19-year-olds and then our record signing. But before we get to the community questions, I completely agree in regards to Bellerin. When he broke in, I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to be our best right back ever. Like between 2014 and 2016, he was just unbelievable. Then when he got that injury, I felt like, in FIFA, you're like 97 pace and stuff like that. I legit think he went to like 77 pace.
It just kept dropping, and it was more than one injury, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember we signed Debuchy? He was a France international at the time, playing ahead of our own right back at the time, who was also a French player. And it's like, what happened? Like, he got injured, and then Bellerin just took the spot and made it his own.
Precisely.
As a kid.
Precisely. It's unbelievable, but that's fantastic. So I'll move on.
So can I say one thing before we
please.
So when I was talking about how we've always been really bad defensively and we were much better defensively last season in my review of the season, one other thing I didn't add is we also used to get battered by the other big 6 teams. And for once, we've not lost to Man United in 2 years, in 2 seasons. Like, we're not getting battered by opponents anymore. Like, we lost to Chelsea because Jorginho should have got a second yellow for a red and didn't, and then scored. Like, those decisions, I know I don't want to blame VAR, but
we did the double on Chelsea last season as well.
Yeah. So this is what I mean. Like every time there's a team in form, they're the highest talked about team in Europe, and we went there and just did them dirty. Partey had one of his best games that day. He showed what he can do when he's fit and stays fit. So again, there's so much hope here, and I hope it's not unfounded optimism, but we're doing better defensively, which we've always been a basket case at. We're doing better against the big teams. We just need to start creating now, and I really hope we sign a creative mid.
Well, is that to the, and again, it's all about that stream that we did, but is it to the sacrifice of our creative expression? That's why we're so good defensively.
I don't know. Yeah, that could be, but we spent so many years being terrible defensively. Like
Yeah.
any good a title winning teams are built on
Starts from the
defense, and
back. Yeah.
yeah, and if you can't defend, then you're not going to win shit. So it's like we had to start somewhere, and we're tightened up. So what's next? What comes next? Let's hope we continue growing from here.
Fantastic. Nima, absolutely brilliant, and I really appreciate the elaboration with every single opinion. It's fantastic for me. Thank you. So we shall go to the community questions. So quite a few of you, so thank you very much. So we'll start with FPL Thomas. Thomas, thanks a lot, man, from the Man on Pod podcast. Quality work that him and Darren do. So favorite Arsenal game of all time that wasn't a cup final?
That's a really good question. So I just want to give a little anecdote on Thomas. So we actually met at the, I think, 24th of July, so 24/7 pub meetup for FPL. It was an incredible night to finally meet so many people from the FPL community in person after like a year and a half of just talking online to each other. So we had a great time. I'm looking forward to meeting him again. And I've listened to some of his pods recently. He was kind enough to put my question on, and he interviewed Anita Jones, who's one of the like hosts of Premier League shows. So it was really impressive stuff he's doing. So really good job, Thomas, and keep it up. My favorite game. I'm going to give you two. I'm going to be cheeky because one of them is just hilarious and one is actually my favorite game. We'll start with the hilarious. So there was the Reading Cup game where we were like 4-0 down and then we drew 4-4 and then our players gave away their shirts because they thought there wasn't extra time and they had to go to the audience crowd and get their shirts back and then we won like 7-5 in extra time. That was just the most funny thing I've ever seen. 12 goals in a cup game, including your players giving away their matchday shirt and having to retrieve it from the crowd. That was
amazing.
Absolutely hilarious. Non-final, it has to be the semi-final at the Bernabeu. Winning 1-0 away and keeping a clean sheet to Real Madrid at a time when no English opposition had done that. That was incredible. Not only that, we made it to that Champions League final, having not conceded a single goal, which no team has ever done before. Obviously, things would be very different for my role model Wenger had he won that day. And people would stop beating him with the stick of, but he's never won a Champions League. Yeah, sad times, but that semi-final before it, that was an incredible moment.
Okay, so the semi-final was against Villarreal. The last 16 was in at the Bernabeu.
Last 16? That's
it.
When
Henry scored the goal, yeah.
I keep thinking semi-final because I'm like, it must have been such a big moment. I was so young back then, though, to be fair. Like, I was 16, I think, so that's nearly 15 years ago. That's like half my lifetime. So excuse me for forgetting which round, but definitely like that goal, that clean sheet, like that was just an incredible moment to be an Arsenal fan. There was another time when we did something quite spectacular, but we lost on away goals, so who the fuck cares? We basically won 2-0 at Bayern Munich. It was the first time an English opponent had beaten Bayern at home in 20 years since Norwich beat them in 1996. And I'm like, why do we have to do so badly at home that we then make this incredible feat against Bayern in their own ground? And that was a time when, do you remember Bellerin made that run to defend last minute? He ran the whole pitch and stopped them from scoring. It's like, oh man, sad times.
Excellent. Next question from James Tweedy. This is obvious, but can you confirm if Arsenal are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen?
Yeah, no, I do think so. Definitely. Like we can't deny that. So I've got a Man United friend, who he has been so anti-Arsenal since the day I met him like 8 years ago. He's never said one good thing about Arsenal. He made loads of retorts about Wenger. And out of the blue the other day, I'm going to go find the message he said because it is worth seeing. He said something and I was just in shock. I was like, this guy of all people said these words. Wow, like I've never heard him say anything good about Arsenal, but even he said it. And he was talking about a certain player leaving. Where is it? So yeah, he's talking about a certain player leaving to go to. Oh, that's it. They were talking about Spurs' outgoing players, and there's a Spurs fan in the group, and we were talking about obviously what happened with Sol Campbell and how he was like in that interview, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere," and then he came and won a bunch of trophies. My friend just goes, "Yeah, like this guy went to arguably play for the best team in Premier League history, or if not in world football. People debate about different kind of title teams. They talk about Chelsea teams of 2002. They talk about 1999 treble winners of United. They talk about lots of different teams, whether they're the best team ever. But I'm sorry, like no one has ever gone undefeated in an entire season. 49 games. The fact that they literally called him comical Wenger for even suggesting it, and he went and did it. That kind of thing doesn't happen in world sport. Like, so for me, that by itself, just the invincibles. People say you're holding on to the past, but I'm sorry, like no one has ever done it since. No one is ever going to do it again. That was just insane. Like I don't know how he did that, but that alone for me is enough to be the greatest team ever in the history of the sport, and that's a bold claim.
On that season, I was fortunate enough to watch Arsenal like 15 times that season.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
I was at the Leicester game. I was at about 10 or 12 of the actual Premier League games, and I was there when we broke Nottingham Forest's record of 43, when we beat Blackburn 3-0, and I was at the 49th game when we beat Aston Villa 3-1. I was at the 49th game.
Wow.
So yeah, there's five amazing teams I've seen playing football, and I think that Arsenal between 2002 to 2005 are one of the top five best footballing teams I've ever seen.
Is one of them the Barcelona or the prime times of Xavi, Iniesta, Messi? It has to be, right?
100%, man. Yeah, between 09 and 012, that Barcelona team,
They
and
dominated the world.
Spain 08 to 12, basically
Yeah.
Barcelona. But
Incredible.
fantastic. We'll move on. Absolutely brilliant. This is great fun, man. Really enjoying it. So we'll go to Bungle. Fantastic guy on Twitter, Bungle, man. I really appreciate you always. You're very, very interactive with a lot of my content and stuff. I really appreciate that. So it's just a pleasure to read your questions. So was actually writing one because Nima is fantastic. He was kind of posting this out as well, and he goes, "Bungle, ask a question." He's like, "Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it." So So we'll go with the first one. What's your earliest vivid memory of the Arsenal?
That's a really good question. I think it has to be Ian Wright for me, as I was saying. So it's kind of just like him in the vest top celebrating his goals. Like, because I'm actually someone who I went to high school from when I was 11 years old in Croydon. So Crystal Palace, I guess, for all my sins, should be my local team, not Arsenal. So I obviously knew about Ian Wright from his Palace days because it was like my local club at the time. And then when he went to Arsenal, I just loved the story that this was someone who kind of peaked later in his career.
Yeah,
And he kind of arrived and he broke the top goal scorer record at his age.
amazing.
And it's just incredible. So for me, it was, my biggest memory is literally just the day that Ian Wright signed. I still remember that and seeing it all over the media. That's actually one of my most vivid memories because I was very young back then and I was a big fan of Ian Wright way before he became an Arsenal player. So I was so proud to see him come over to the other side of London.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. And could you say that was a significant moment you knew you were a Gooner?
Yeah, no.
Or
I
was
think
it Wenger, as you mentioned before? Because that was fantastic.
Yeah,
Story
I
of
think it has. I think it has to be Wenger, but equally, I think it goes back to actually Henri. So it's just like, so for me, it was just the kind of the arrogance he had because it's like he had every right to be arrogant, and it was like, but it wasn't too arrogant. It was just before it becomes way too cocky. It
Yeah,
was like confident, arrogant, and I'd say the moment for me was when he got asked to retake a free kick that he scored. And the ref was like, no, 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 you need to move the ball back. And he looked at him and scored again.
yeah,
And then was
Wigan,
like, yeah,
Wigan.
okay, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You think you can ask me to retake this free kick, you tosser. Anyway, so yeah, that for me, that was a huge one. I was like, Henri, you're my hero, mate. I remember people like John Terry used to say when they were going to face Henri, they couldn't sleep the night before. Now, for a centre back of Terry's ilk to say that, that tells you all we need to know about that. I cannot believe he did not win a Ballon d'Or. Like Henri was purely robbed. Like there was a time when he wasn't just the best player in the Premier League; he was the best player in the world, and
yeah,
that's not even debatable. To this day, he holds the assist record for the Premier League. But he didn't just
incredible.
get 20 assists; he got 24 league goals in the same fucking season. Wow, like how?
Yeah, the years of 2002 to 2006, Thierry Henry was the best player in the world, and
Just unplayable.
for him to not win it was just ridiculous.
It was a
Ridiculous.
sham. There was like a guy who won it who didn't even like get to a final. So some of the names that
Cannavaro
won
won
it.
it.
That's it.
Ronaldinho won it. You know.
Oh, that just shows you what a popularity contest it can be.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the club you play for.
Yeah, yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah, it really is actually. So FPL Insights, thanks a lot for your question, man. I think both in general and FPL wise, it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on most likely starting at 11 of Arsenal, focusing on Saka and other new signings, which I'm sure you would have already planned. Sure.
yeah. It sounds.
So what kind of 11 are you expecting? I guess with the Brentford game, really, and then maybe moving
Yeah,
on from
I
there,
think the
what you think.
Brentford game. Yeah, I think the Brentford game will be similar to the kind of final preseason game we had with Tottenham. So I was a bit surprised to see Bellerin start over Chambers, and it was
Mm,
quite telling that Maitland-Niles came on and actually Chambers came on as centre back cover. So I do wonder if with Gabriel kind of there's been no timescale given to when he's back. So I do wonder if Chambers is kind of being reserved as a backup centre back at the moment
mm,
to Murray and White. And I don't know where Holding is either. He wasn't fit enough to start. So yeah, my thinking is it's going to be a kind of Leno in goal, Tierney left back, Pablo Murray centre back with Ben White. Uh, I would have said Chambers right back, but now I'm thinking it will be Bellerin. Um, yeah, I think he may start. And then centre mid, I think it'll be a two of Xhaka and Lokonga. Um,
right.
like if we start with El Neni, I'll be pretty pissed off considering how well Lokonga has done since his arrival. I didn't realize that the kid was captain of Anderlecht at that age as well. And when they asked him what player do you want to be like, he was like, none of them. I want to be I want to be Lokonga. I want to be the best Lokonga. I want to take the best part of all the players I look at's game and be the best Lokonga. I ain't looking to be like no one else. I'm gonna be the
Amazing.
best me. So
Mm,
I love I love him. And then he was talking about all the players he's looking forward to linking up with. I'm like, this guy knows ball. He wants to link up with Pepe, Saka, Smith Rowe. He knows the Tierney. Like, he knows which players are good in this rotten team. And then the rest of the lineup for me would be a kind of so it's a 4-2-3-1. So the three attacking players would be kind of Ober on the left wing, I imagine. Smith Rowe is the number 10, right wing Pepe, and Lacazette up top. When Saka is fully fit and back, I think it gives Arteta a tough question of does
mm,
he bench his captain Aubameyang and play Saka left wing? Does he put Abba up top? Does he replace Laka? We know that Laka's best football last season came when he was linking up with the likes of Smith Rowe and Saka, the kids. So I do wonder if actually like his hesitation to drop Oba is because he doesn't want to play him at centre forward because Laka links up better with the kids, but he also doesn't know what to do about dropping his captain. So I think Saka will be giving him some tough decisions to make come game week 2, game week 3 when he's recovered from his late exit from the Euros. But yeah, that's kind of the lineup for now. I think a 4-2-3-1, and it's a shame about Partey, but he's going to be out at least 3 weeks. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Someone teased me the other day that, oh, Ray, you've got another Diaby, and I just cried into the pillow when they
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
that.
Do you remember when he used to come back from injury and like he got
He was
man of the match at
incredible.
Anfield for
Oh,
the 2-0 and then like he's gone again for like another. I didn't realize he was with us for nearly a decade. That's
yeah,
how injured he was, and I just did not realize how long he was there.
getting that paycheck, man.
Towards the end, he was on a pay-as-you-play contract, I think. Yeah, just because of how
So
injured
he
he
never
was.
got paid.
Yeah, for real. I'm not even joking. In terms of other signings, I saw the
Mm,
AFC Bell thread today. It sounded like Madison, like we're quite optimistic about it. There's no guarantees, obviously, but I saw Brendan Rodgers' interview as well, where if you'd read it in text, it might have sounded like he's saying Madison ain't leaving. But if you watched him and saw the way he spoke, he didn't sound so confident he's going to hold on to him when you
mm,
listen to what was being said between the lines. So I have high hopes. I think we could get Madison if we cough up the money. I think having sold Willock, that gives us a much better opportunity to front the money. I know that we also, from the sounds of it, have Odegaard as a second target, which we'll only pursue if we can't get Madison, our prime target. And then we have Aura, who we know is available for 20 mil from Leon as like a final backup. I have a feeling our business is going to go right up until the deadline day. Um, I'm going to be pretty pissed if we don't get a number 2 goalkeeper. I could see Arteta and Edu's face when Leno went down in that friendly. I hope they felt something. I hope they felt like their heart was about to bloody explode and they go out and buy someone. Um, and then the fact that we're keeping Xhaka and we're keeping Bellerin because we can't get suitable offers for them. I've seen so much hate about that, but I'm sorry, like Xhaka just had an incredible Euros as his captain for Switzerland, and you want me to accept a 12 million bid from Roma from him? Like that's delusional. I see players who've never played in the Prem being sold by 30 mil from Liverpool and Chelsea. So we
Crazy.
talked about being ruthless. Like, I'm sorry, like Xhaka was our best centre mid last year, regardless of what anyone says. And no matter how much of him epitomizing our decline over the last 4 years, but he was still our best player in midfield. Partey was out too long to be our best. So when there's so much uncertainty around the club, I can kind of understand that they may want to hold on to the likes of Bellerin and Xhaka to now just put all the funds into a Madison or an Odegaard, because they'll have to get the right back later, or they'll have to get the other centre mid later. Maybe Lokonga did better than they thought. Maybe they thought he'd be an understudy and he's ready to go. I don't know. Like, but my thinking is, like, I think I said this on that stream last time. Xhaka gets slaughtered for his mistakes, which that I agree with. But people will say he like passes backwards and sideways. And I think I said this on the stream last time. Xhaka made the most successful final third passes, or passes into the final third of any player in the Premier League. So it's funny how, like, when commentators who are biased give lazy narrative and chat shit, that people kind of just eat up and repeat it, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, guys, well, Nima, I mean, that was absolutely fantastic. First of all, man, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed it.
Had a whale of a time. I hope I'm going to get some like death threats sent to me about saying I like Arteta, I imagine. And that's how this bloody fan base is.
Like they say, you know, any attention is good attention. But before we wrap it up, please tell us, how can they follow you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter on @FPL Nima, or if you're on Instagram, it's actually Nemo, Nemo.London, because I used to go by the name Nemo as well for many years, Finding Nemo and all that stuff. Yeah, so I think you can see on the ticker on the screen below. So yeah, @FPL Nima, and if you want to follow the show on YouTube, it's Net That Haul. So have a little look, and we'll hopefully help you haul some FPL points. But yeah, thank you, Ray. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. I'm excited to do more stuff with you. We've discussed about possible collaboration going forward, so let's see what happens there. But again, thank you so much for being a guest. For all the thousands who are going to be watching, thank you very much. I'm going to keep up this kind of series, really, where I can really get into quality FPL content creators' heads as football fans. Because for me, that's where all the love starts. It starts with being a football fan and integrating that into FPL. So I'm going to keep going. I've got a couple of people on my hit list. But once again, Nima, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for watching, and catch you soon.